Hello and welcome to the Geek on My Sleeve channel, where we do weekly book reviews and live book discussions every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern. My name is Karl, and today I have my co-host Peter here with me, and we are going to be doing a spoiler-free book review of one of our childhood favorites, Artemis Fowl by Eoin Colfer and narrated by Nathaniel Parker. We are counting this towards one of our 52 book challenge for our channel. If you would like more content like this and enjoy this video, please like and subscribe. Artemis Fowl, Book 1. The last time I read this was probably like 15 to 20 years ago. For me, it was one of those books that got me into reading, and I remember really enjoying it as a child. Reading it now as an adult, having consumed literally hundreds of books since then, my feelings are a little bit different.
Yeah, very much the same vibe. Like, I remember reading it and it being a lot better than it was now when I reread it,
hmm
but that's only because I've expanded my book repertoire.
It's still a really fun book, still has a special place, being great for entry level readers. Quick summary about the book.
A 12-year-old kid who is in a wealthy and highly educated family who takes on kind of a crime lord type deal. One of the reasons it really stuck out for me is it kind of takes the generic childhood fairy tales and it puts it into more of a young adult space. So that
hmm
was the big draw for me because it was something I already knew about, but
hmm
then it put a new flavoring on it.
I agree with that. 12-year-old genius, part of this Irish mafia. He kidnaps a fairy and holds her for ransom. As a kid, it was a lot of fun just seeing this 12-year-old. He's just a smart kid, right? He uses his wits to outthink other people. Age rating, I think we covered this, rated E to E10, definitely targeted towards younger teenage audience. Overall, out of 5 stars, how would you rate the book, Pete?
I would rate it a 3 or a 4 star in the sense that with all the other literature I've consumed, it's not really that great, but a 4 star under the impression of looking at it as a young adult book.
I agree with that 100%. And we were talking a little bit about it earlier. It's great for young adult, early readers. This is a book that I've started with my son, and he's around Artemis's age. And for what it does well, it really does well. And I enjoy it. But then other aspects that I really look for in stories, including some of the other young adult books I read and enjoy now, it just doesn't have it there. Getting into the scaling progression, like for me, that was one of its strengths. It every chapter something happens, right? It's big moments in each chapter that's pushing the story along, and then 8 to 9 chapters and it's over. And when you look back, a lot happens in this book. It's 6 hours and 6 minutes, 277 pages. Even for young adult books that we read, this is small.
Yeah, it's fairly short, but it wraps up the conflict very well.
I
It's
agree.
I For me it felt like the end of an episode in a TV series, something
I agree. I
begins, it
agree.
happens, and when it ends, it
I,
wraps
I,
it up.
yeah, I think that's a really good analogy. For this book, it felt much more maybe a couple episodes versus like a full scale movie where you could stop and smell the roses. You get a lot more history. One of the other categories we wanted to cover was world building. For young adult, early readers, I think it gives you enough. Definitely wasn't really wondering a whole lot, but it could have done so much more for the world building.
Very, very much so. And yet again, it would be a 3 in regards to other books, but a 4 in the space of young adult. For me, it kind of like sprinkles it along. They
hmm
give you enough insight into the world
Mm-hmm.
only to explain a brief origin. Then they jump into a different realm or a different world, so to speak. It doesn't need additional explaining because it's real life.
And I felt for the magic system too, like they explained it a bit. I want so much more. And maybe that gets answered in the later books, but there is now 8 books in the series, I believe, and a handful of other spin-offs.
I'm curious to see how the story progresses. There's so much more potential that could come from it. It just kind of scratched the
Hmm.
surface.
Thoughts on character development?
Character development for me was probably the best in regards to young adult. I would actually put it at a 4 for both. And
Hmm.
for that, like, you really get to see how the character interacts with certain situations, and based on the environmental pressures or the situation, you get the raw, hey, this is how they feel. And the character development is probably the best side of this book, where you get to see them in this situation, and then with new stressors, you get to see their true reaction.
I agree. I think that character development, the characters are a huge strength for this book. 4 is more than fair. I would even argue for like early young adult, it could probably even go higher than 4 stars because you just enjoy the characters so much.
So, final thoughts. Will we be doing a Geek Out stream? Yes, no, maybe. The answer is yes, and that will be May 3rd, 2020.
Looking forward to geeking out over the book on May 3rd. Very interested in talking more about the upcoming Disney film being released late May.
Bye.
By